So warm welcome to News Around Africa.
Hello dear, welcome to News Around Africa. Please start.
Hello and a pleasant welcome to another edition of News Around Africa.
Hello and a warm welcome. Thanks for joining us. You are on Star Television, Channel 21. This is News Around Africa and the World with me, Janet Mugezaiza. Starting today is in Indian Ocean. Mauritius has sent a scientific mission to the Chagos Island. The official reason for this boat trip, the first to be organized by Mauritius, is to map the relief around the archipelago. But this are highly political, some will say provocative, more by the Mauritian government. Both the UK and the Mauritius claim to hold sovereignty over the Chagos Island, but a recent maritime law tribunal of the United Nations have revealed that Britain has no sovereignty over the Chagos Island. The UK government disputes that but says it will give Chagos back to Mauritius when it's no longer needed for security purposes. America has a military base on the island. Here is more of the story.
It's the first time the Mauritian government has sent a boat directly to the disputed Chagos Islands. Mauritius claims sovereignty over the Chagos archipelago. Britain, on the other hand, insists that the islands belong to it. Home, of course, the Chagos Islands to the key American military base on one of the islands, Diego Garcia. The official reason and context for this trip by the Mauritian government is scientific. They are sending experts to map a reef along essentially the maritime borders of the Chagos Islands. This is in the context of Mauritius's campaign at United Nations bodies, a very successful campaign so far, to win ownership, sovereignty of the Chagos Islands. So they're mapping those reefs around the islands in what could end up being a border dispute with another island nation, which is the Maldives. But the real context of this, of course, is clearly political. This is Mauritius claiming its right to go to its own islands, saying the UN General Assembly has supported us, the International Court of Justice has backed our claim to these islands, so we can send our own people, our own ship to the Chagos Islands. Britain is aware that this trip is going ahead. They have said that they will not seek to stop it. But you're seeing here a real diplomatic escalation of a process that the Mauritian government is clearly starting to win. World opinion, which used to back Britain in its claims to the Chagos Islands, is now really rapidly shifting to the Mauritian side. Africa in particular sees this in the context of decolonization, of Britain giving up one of its last scraps of empire in the Indian Ocean. And so this trip, which is likely to last many days, is really a symbolically important and quite politically provocative act by Mauritius.
According to a report which says French President Emmanuel Macron has told reporters that President Vladimir Putin has assured him that Russian forces will not wrap up the crisis near Ukraine's border. I secured an assurance there will be no duration to escalation, he said before meeting Ukraine's leader. However, Russia said any suggestion of a guarantee was not right. Russia has denied any plans to invade Ukraine, but it has assembled more than 100,000 troops near its borders. Here's more of the story.
Solution for this crisis. He talks about Ukraine changing a lot since its revolution of 2013, which saw a pro-Western government installed. The country took a big step towards Europe then, and President Macron said the country has not been the same since, and there was no going back, which is quite a statement to make. He said he can't stop NATO's open door policy, which we hear a lot about, where NATO says it's up to each individual country to be able to join. But he sees the breakthrough being through these Minsk agreements, this ceasefire deal for these occupied territories in the east of Ukraine, by Russian-backed militants. Both Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of not honouring it. The requirements were for Russia to scale back heavy weapons from that military zone, and for Ukraine to install local elections and to change its law for more devolved powers to that area. That's not palatable for President Zelensky's government. That, they say, would give Russia a direct hand into Ukrainian politics, and over the last few weeks and months we've seen reports of Russia ignoring that agreement too, with the movement of weapons and troops. These were two subsequent agreements overseen by France and Germany. There was a lessening of the fighting, there was some effectiveness there, but we've seen the agreement not entirely be honoured. And for President Macron, he wants this to be very much brought back to the fore for a longer-term solution. But for President Zelensky, one of his big election promises was to sort this diplomatically and not make any concessions to Russia. But President Macron is calling for a new defensive order for Europe. So what that's going to mean in detail and how acceptable that's going to be for Ukraine, we'll have to wait and see. President Zelensky said if President Putin was open to Emmanuel Macron, that is a positive result. But openness to Ukraine should result in concrete steps. And for President Zelensky, that is the de-escalation of things for troops to withdraw.
Some extremist Jews revealed that they have been dressing as Muslims to enter and worship at a bitterly contested holy site, Temple Mount of the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. After Israel captured and occupied East Jerusalem in 1967, a delicate status quo remained. Non-Muslims can visit the complex but must not pray there. The BBC has been speaking to Jewish Israeli activist Rachel Maurice, who advocates the dismantling of the mosque and replacement with a Jewish temple, and to a Palestine Muslim activist Handi Halawani, who says she will defend Al-Aqsa Mosque. Here's more of the story.
The mission is to reconquer the Temple Mount.
Our right to worship in Al-Aqsa Mosque has sadly been attacked.
For decades, tensions between Jews and Muslims at Jerusalem's most bitterly contested holy site have helped fuel the Israel-Palestinian conflict. But recently, there's been a dangerous new development that makes you question who's who here.
You change your clothes, change your hat. Sometimes you need to paint a bit of your hair or have a little haircut.
Raphael Morris heads a small group of extremist Jews who disguise themselves as Palestinians to get around a ban on non-Muslims praying in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. They could be arrested or attacked if they're discovered.
After Israel captured the Old City from Jordan in the 1967 Middle East War, it started to allow Jews to go to visit their most sacred place.
And in recent years, it's allowed a sharp rise in numbers. Palestinian Muslims see this as a provocation. This is also the third holiest site in Islam.
I have the responsibility to defend and protect Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Aqsa is my life.
Handi Halawani was previously banned from going to the compound by Israel, accused of belonging to an illegal group. She's angry that Jews are impersonating Muslims.
It's clear that the settlers entering Al-Aqsa in disguise hides aggression and terrorizes Muslims praying. It's clearly political.
Raphael makes no secret of his ultimate goal: to rebuild the Jewish temples destroyed in biblical times.
The temple should be exactly over there, where there's the big gold mosque. And yeah, it will hurt, but that's our vision, and that's the next stage.
Israeli police say they are stopping attempts by nationalist Jews to pray at Temple Mount, with fears their actions could spark violence. Raphael's been temporarily barred from the old city, but he pledges he'll be back.
Hundreds of Moroccans have gathered to pay their last respects to Little Rayan, the 5-year-old boy who died after being trapped in a well for 4 days. Rayan Oram fell down the 32 meters well on 1st February, promoting painstaking efforts to rescue him, but rescuers were unable to reach him in time. of hundreds of mourners attended his funeral on Monday in his home village where the tragedy unfolded. There were so many people that they could not all fit in the Hilo Peak Cemetery and praying site in the Northern Reef Mountains. Here is more of the story.
The final journey for 5-year-old Rayyan Al-Ram, whose plight touched a nation and reverberated around the Arab world. Hundreds of mourners came to the village of Igran in Morocco's rural northern province of Chefchaouen to pay tribute. Among them, Rayyan's father, Khalid Al-Ram. The community coming together to give support. Social media across the Arab world has been flooded with messages of support for the community, grief and praise for rescue workers.
We will never forget our son Rayyan. He will always be in our hearts. Little Rayyan is not only the son of this village, but the child of the whole world.
Rescue crews, using bulldozers, mounted a huge operation to get Rayyan out. Crowds came to watch. Thousands more followed on social media. The opening to the well was just 45 centimetres wide, too narrow for rescuers to enter. So they dug a slope into the hill before carefully tunnelling towards Rayyan to avoid causing a landslide. On Saturday night, crowds cheered as rescue workers finally reached Rayyan and pulled him out. But the joy turned to grief when it was announced that the boy was dead. King Mohammed VI called Rayyan's parents to give condolences. Pope Francis and the French President Emmanuel Macron have also sent messages. The Pope praising the beautiful sight of people gathered together to try to save a child. The boy's death has left Moroccans in shock, but there's thanks too.
Thank you to the journalists, to the excavator drivers, to the people who helped us, to the people who came from all over Morocco, to the Arab world, and to every person who reached out to us.
The area that was excavated is now being filled back. Many here take strength from the goodwill shown by different faiths towards a defenceless boy in danger.
You're still with News on Africa and the World here on Star Television, Channel 21. Continue watching and we'll be right back with more stories just after the break. Welcome back if you're just joining us. This is News on Africa and the World here on Star Television, Channel 21. Israeli security forces have killed 3 Palestinians in the city of Nablus. In the occupied West Bank, the Palestinian Minister of Health said on Tuesday. Joint condemnation from Palestinian Authority, 3 citizens were massacred as a result of direct shooting by Israeli forces in the city of Nablus, the minister said in a statement. Here's more of the story.
It was just after midday in the occupied West Bank city of Nablus when Israeli special forces, along with domestic security agency Shin Bet, carried out the raid. According to witnesses, undercover troops used a taxi with Palestinian license plates, pulled up next to a car, and opened fire, spraying it with bullets in broad daylight.
After the Israeli forces left, people gathered to see what had happened. No one suspected the vehicles were carrying the Israeli soldiers simply because of the Palestinian number plates. The Israeli soldiers continued to fire for a minute. They fired more than 80 bullets and the young Palestinian men were killed on the spot.
The Palestinian men were accused of involvement in recent attacks against Israeli soldiers and civilians. The troops were filmed taking weapons from the vehicle before they left the scene. A case of extrajudicial killings, according to the Palestinian Authority, that requires an international investigation. Family members gathered outside the morgue to share their sadness and anger, along with members of the community.
My son has been hunted by the Israelis for months. The Israeli intelligence called for my children and threatened them for my son to give himself in.
Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz commended his security forces for the operation. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett says there is no immunity for terrorists.
I am really sad not only for this crime, but for the entire situation the Palestinian people have been in for decades.
We are used to these crimes, but we must act in response. I am really sad. We are filled with anger, but no one is lending us a helping hand.
The Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, the armed wing of the Fatah Party, says it will retaliate. 3 more young men caught up in a seemingly never-ending cycle of violence.
At least 20 people are dead and 55,000 have left homeless in Madagascar after a cyclone slammed into the island and eastern coast. The World Food Programme have warned that the cyclone destroyed staple crops, making a food shortage crisis in the future almost inevitable. The Indian Ocean country is one of the poorest in the world and has experienced series of environmental and climate disasters in recent years. Here's more of the story.
Cyclone Butsarai brought with it heavy rains, strong winds, death, and destruction. The tropical storm weakened as it moved across Madagascar, but not before causing serious damage. Thousands of buildings destroyed or flooded across the island. It's already southern Africa's second biggest cyclone this year. Residents of Mananjari, the epicenter of the storm, are still waiting for help.
Our house collapsed. We don't know where to go. We have no food. We have nowhere to go. All our things were in our house. The children's clothes, school, supplies, everything was destroyed.
We have to help everyone, whether they live on the beach or in the city. We really have to find a solution.
The World Food Programme warned the cyclone destroyed staple crops, making a food shortage crisis in the months to come almost inevitable.
We know for sure that the rice field and rice crops will be damaged, will be lost. So this is the main crop for Malagasy people, and they will be seriously affected in their food security in the next 3-6 months if we don't do something immediately and we don't help them to recover.
An estimated 150,000 people have been affected so far. More than 3/4 of Madagascar's 28 million people live in poverty. Aid workers are expecting the number of affected people to go up. Still reeling from a tropical storm in January, which killed 55 people, before the extreme wet weather, communities were coping with years of such severe drought, the UN warned it could lead to the world's first climate change-related famine. The African continent, its leaders say, is paying the highest price for climate change.
Wrapping up today's edition of News on Africa and the World here on Star Television Channel 21 is with entertainment. Adele took home the Breeze Street Triops prizes, Artist, Song and Album of the Year, giving her a career of total of 12 trophies at the ceremony. Just one shy of Robbie Williams' record of 13. Ed Sheeran was crowned Songwriter of the Year 2 at London's O2 Arena, and he performed his hit Bad Habit alongside rockers Bring Me the Horizon. Dua Lipa won the night's other big prize as TikTok voters voted for her and not Adele as the best pop and R&B act. Here's more of the story.
Got my stuff, I'm at the door. Now I'm the one you're begging for. Don't know what you got until it's gone.
Adele, easy on me! First of all, I didn't realise there were that many songs nominated for Song of the Year. I can't believe that a piano ballad won up against that many bangers.
How come we both become a version of a person we don't even like? And so it begins, the story of never ending. Your introversion led you here. Intuition protected.
Mom, look at what you done, Mom. Look at what you done.
I want to say thank you to all of the artists that are in the same field as me, the rappers that have suffered for years and years and years and years and years and broken down so many barriers in this industry that I'm in right now.
The award for International Song of the Year goes to
Olivia Rodrigo, good for you.
I just want to say, this was fan voted for, and in the 2 weeks that people could vote for, I have never been so heartwarmed. I don't even know if that's a word.
Sadly, she cannot be here tonight. Oh, she's busy.
And I really, really wish I could be there with you tonight, but we are about to go on stage tomorrow in Miami, and we've been rehearsing all day, and I got dressed up just for you.
I am so honored and feel so lucky to be awarded this again.
Album of the year is Adele.
I'd like to dedicate this award to my son.
These are all the stories making news on Africa and the world here on Scout and UK Channel 21 for today. Many thanks for watching and continue to stay with us for the best in television food. See you right back here tomorrow. I am Jonathan Mesiza. Have a lovely day.
So warm welcome to News Around Africa.
Hello dear, welcome to News Around Africa.
Hello and a pleasant welcome to another episode